Hello everyone, welcome to Narayana IS Academy. Today we'll be doing news analysis of 27 June 2024. And as always, we have taken 5 articles combined of Hindu and Indian Express. If we talk about the first article of the day, and that is on Indian Express page number 9, here we'll be talking about Leader of Opposition, LOP. There are different debates going on regarding LOP. 10% rule, whether it is mandatory or not. We'll have a detailed discussion on that. Moving on to the second article of the day, which is on Hindu page number 8. Here we'll be talking about rooftop solar potential. How much importance does rooftop solar has when it comes to renewable energy per se, right? And here GS paper 3 energy as well as environmental conservation is merging. If we talk about the third article of the day, here we'll be talking about NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, and this particular article is on Hindu page number 2. NHRC is asking for some data from Delhi government related to heat wave and how many lives have been lost during that. More like this is a very sad state to be in, this whole heat wave loss scenario where people have died because of heat wave. But we have to understand what is NHRC, what are the different criteria associated with NHRC, whether it is a constitutional body, a statutory body, and why it has sometimes been called a toothless tiger. If we talk about the fourth article of the day, here we'll be talking about Bannerghatta National Park, which is in Karnataka, and you have a first leopard safari there. So there are different keywords here: National Park, Bannerghatta National Park, leopard safari, IUCN status of leopard. We'll be having a detailed discussion on that. If we talk about the last article of the day, which is a combined article, Indian Express page number 10 and 11, there are 2 articles related to emergency, and there are multiple small articles scattered in Hindu and Indian Express related to emergency, because we are marking 50th anniversary of an emergency right now. We are not celebrating it, we are marking it. So we'll talk about emergency, what are different types of emergency, what necessitated the emergency 50 years back. All these things we'll be discussing in the last article of the day. After we are done with all these 5 articles, we'll be solving questions. So we'll be solving 5 prelims practice question as well as 1 means question, because practice makes you perfect. If we talk about the first article of the day, that is about Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha. This article has been explained very beautifully in Indian Express, and we'll have a detailed look at it. So first of all, if we are talking about this Leader of Opposition article, what is the relevance from exam perspective? Where it will be asked in exam? That is a pertinent question which we have to ask here, right? So here if we talk about, and if we go back again in the previous slide, GS paper 2 Parliament. There, Parliament, you already have seen in 2024 UPSC paper how many questions came from Parliament topic. So Leader of Opposition and the debates associated with it is very important. Even in 2018, you can see here, they have already asked a question related to whether the leader can be recognized as Leader of Opposition or not. There is a 10% criteria debate which we have to talk about in this particular article. Fine. So what is the context? Why we are reading this particular article in Indian Express? And not only in Indian Express, it was there in Hindu as well. So Raebareli MP Rahul Gandhi sir is the Leader of Opposition, LOP in Lok Sabha. And this has happened after 10 years. So from 2014 to 2024, we did not have a LOP. And what was the debate why this happened? We'll have a look at that. So what is the definition of LOP? Where it has been defined? So it is not defined in the Constitution. Please understand this. They can give you this particular statement in exam that the definition of LOP has been explicitly mentioned in Constitution. That will be wrong. So it has been defined by Salary and Allowances of Leader of Opposition in Parliament Act 1977. So it is in this particular act rather than Constitution. And who is Leader of Opposition? Leader of the largest opposition party in the respective house. So that means you can have a Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Here, this particular article is mainly focusing on Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha. So now, 10% rule. From 2014 to 2024, we did not have an LOP because no opposition party got 10%, minimum like 10% of the seats. So you have 543, so you are getting 10%. That means even 55 seats no opposition party got. And that's why that was the rationale which was given for having no LOP. So, but now this particular rationale, this 10% rule, that is what is this PDT Acharya sir is saying, that there is no rule requiring 10% of MPs for recognition as Leader of Opposition. But now the point is, no party can claim foul here, because when Congress was in power in 1984, they denied TDP, Telugu Desam Party, the post of Leader of Opposition. Even then TDP had 30 MPs, but they did not give them, citing this 10% criteria, which is a kind of convention. not it. If they want, if the ruling party wants, if the speaker wants, they can bypass this rule, but they generally tend not to. And again, both Congress and BJP have done these things in the past, so nobody can cry foul here, and that's why we have taken this historical context. Position and role of LOP, if we talk from exam perspective, 10% criteria, that has been a convention, right? Not a hard and fast rule, but generally ruling parties are applying that. But now what is the role of this LOP? What is the role of leader of opposition? So in general, in India, shadow cabinet concept is not generally practiced, but in UK, this particular shadow cabinet concept is very renowned. So basically, this is an alternative. In simple terms, currently, if Rahul Gandhi is the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, so he is the shadow prime minister. In simple terms, if we are talking about the concept of shadow cabinet, that means if the current government falls, you have an alternative government in the form of a shadow prime minister who will be Rahul Gandhi, because he is the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. He represents opposition in committees for appointment of director of CBI, CVC and CIC, etc. Right? So when we are talking about the order of precedence, LOP is at number 7 along with other high-ranking official. So your homework is to find out who are from number 1 to number 6. Who is at the top level, then at the second level. What is the order of precedence of Prime Minister? All these things are important. Believe me, not right now, but 10 or 15 years before, UPSC has asked PYQs on order of precedence. If we talk about the second article of the day, this is related to rooftop solar. Now, this is a topic where this particular topic you're reading in GS3. And there are two areas, energy. In renewable energy, you'll be reading it. Then in environmental conservation, because renewable energy, in a way, if you're using renewable energy, you're promoting environmental conservation in more ways than one, because you're reducing emission from fossil fuel, etc., right? So solar energy is a very important component of renewable energy. So many questions has been asked by UPSC in pre as well as mains. So what is this particular question all about? Let's have a particular topic all about. Let's have a look at that. So if we see previous year questions, you will see so many questions on solar energy, tapping of solar energy, different schemes related to solar energy, how we are tapping it, right? So in 2020, UPSC has asked, India has immense potential of solar energy, though there are regional variation in its development. We'll see that Rajasthan has like high potential, immense potential, although Gujarat is performing very good in rooftop solar. Some states like UP, Bihar and Jharkhand, they are lagging behind. What are the reasons associated with that? We'll have a look at that. So what is the context? Why we are reading this particular article? India is aiming to install 500 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by 2030. And we are making our NDCs, earlier it was known as INDC, intended nationally determined contributions, or NDC, nationally determined contribution under UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Because we have to remove GHGs, or we have to minimize the emission of GHG greenhouse gases, right? So we have a aim of installing 500 gigawatt of renewable energy, right? And rooftop solar will contribute 100 gigawatt to this target. So there is an aim that out of this 500 gigawatt, if I'm not wrong, 280 gigawatt will come from solar energy. Out of this 280 gigawatt, 100 has to come from rooftop solar. So we have set very high and ambitious targets, and we have to attain it. How we are going to attain it? That's what this article is talking about. So we have a RTS program, rooftop solar program. This was launched under, and now you have to pay attention to this particular slide, because there are so many points which can be asked by UPSC in different ways, like Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, JNNSM. It was launched in 2010 under this RTS program was there. And initially they had a target of 20 gigawatt of solar energy by 2022, which they subsequently revised 100 gigawatt and including 40 gigawatt from rooftop solar. But so what was the revised target? Initial target was 20 gigawatt they have to generate of solar energy, which will also include rooftop solar and other solar targets, right? So as of December 2022, RTS capacity was about 7.5 gigawatt. Now pay attention here, because these numerical facts, you may feel like this is very factual, but these kind of questions have been asked before. Target was 40 gigawatt from rooftop solar. We achieved 7.5 gigawatt. That was our capacity. So that's why, since we were not able to achieve the 40 gigawatt target, the target was extended to 2026. We have been given a leeway of 4 more years. We are currently in 2024. We have 2 more years to go. And RTS needs to contribute 100 gigawatt. We have talked about this. 500 gigawatt renewable energy we want to generate by 2030. 100 has to come from RTS. And this 100 is a part of 280 gigawatt, which will come from solar energy, right? Okay. Now, what is the performance of different states? And you may ask, sir, why is this particular slide needed? Because in UPSC mains, UPSC has asked question, talk about the regional variation. Like here, you can see Gujarat is performing very well. Like they're leading the chart among the states. And because there is a proactive government there, quick approvals are there. Rajasthan has highest potential because we do know that if you talk about solar energy, which they are getting per square meter, etc., Thar Desert and everything, they have a very high potential. But it has yet to be tapped. So you have to understand the difference between potential and the difference between who is leading the chart. Gujarat is leading the chart, but Rajasthan, if the potential is tapped, sky is the limit for them. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Jharkhand, they are yet to explore fully this RTS potential. And why is this happening? Why they are not able to explore fully the potential? Because of bureaucratic hurdles and lack of infrastructure. Maybe lack of political will can be also cited as a reason. So these three states, they have a lot to do. Fine. Now, what are the steps to ensure RTS growth? If you want to ensure rooftop solar growth, what you need to do? You need to create awareness among people. This is, if you go back, this is a very decentralized model, rooftop solar. Anywhere and everywhere you can generate your own solar energy at the rooftop, right? So this is a decentralized model and there is need for creating awareness. Sometimes in India, it happens that no, we don't want to block our roof, so we'll not be doing the rooftop solar thing. So there is a need for awareness. Creating awareness, economic viability, how much subsidies government can provide, how lower the cost of these solar panels should be, right? Research and development, we need to make these panels much more, resource friendly, eco-friendly, and the cost has to be reduced to a certain extent. So all these things has to be done. Training and skill development, vocational courses on how to use these rooftop solars and how to properly implement different schemes related to rooftop solar. Policy and regulations. So all these things will go a long way in improving the efficacy of all these RTS programs. If you talk about the third article of the day, that is talking about NHRC. So this is a very, very sad article because they're seeking report from government on death of homeless people due to heat wave. And so many people have died. If you see this article, around 192 homeless people, they have died between June 11 to 19. And this is a very sorry state to be in. And we are very sympathetic towards this particular issue, the cause. But the major focal point of this article is NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. We have to talk about it, whether it is a constitutional body or a statutory body, why it is called a toothless tiger. There are so many things which we need to know about. How many members are there in NHRC? Who is electing the members of NHRC? All these are important points from exam perspective. GS2, statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial body. There it will be coming, this particular topic. Right, so previous year question, you can see a big question in 2014 has been asked on NHRC. It can be more effective when its tasks are adequately supported or most effective. That means it needs support. There are certain issues which are happening. Sometimes some of the recommendations of NHRC are not followed by different state governments. And why is this happening? Because again, we'll have a discussion. What is the issue related to the jurisdiction, overlapping jurisdictions of different state human rights commission are there, and that is creating a lot of issues. So we'll have a look at that. So what is the context here? NHRC has sought a detailed report from Delhi government regarding the death of homeless people, as we have seen in the article. And this whole action is triggered because there was a complaint by social activist Sunil Kumar. Now, what is NHRC? We have to talk about the basic points related to, attributes related to NHRC. So it is a body created under Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. That means it is not a constitutional body like say GST Council or Finance Commission or Comptroller and Auditor General, which are mentioned explicitly in the Constitution under various articles. This is a body which has been created by an act which is known as Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. So it is a statutory body. Please remember this is important. And they are tasked to protect and promote human rights, like you see AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, implemented in northeastern states. Sometimes misuse happens and all these things. To prevent the misuse of these kind of laws and to prevent or to promote human rights, we have NHRC, right? To promote life, liberty, dignity, to investigate complaints regarding human rights violation, right? They can intervene in court proceedings and their headquarters is located in New Delhi. So what are the important points which you can take from this particular slide? First of all, where is the headquarters? Second, it is a statutory body, not a constitutional body. And third, as the name suggests, they are there to promote, protect human rights and human dignity. Composition. How many members are there? We don't need, basically here, you don't need to remember all the members. Like there is a chairperson, 5 members, and then there are 7 ex officio members. Here the keyword is ex officio. What is the meaning of ex officio? Because you have acquired another post or you have another office, you have automatically become a member of NHRC. So chairperson of National Commission for Minorities, since he or she is a chairperson of National Commission for Minorities, automatically they will become a member of NHRC. So all these members are there, 7 ex officio members, NCSC, NCST, then National Commission for Women, National Commission for Backward Classes. Now your work is to find out whether NCSC, NCST, they are constitutional body or statutory body. If they are constitutional body, under which article NCSC comes, under which article NCST comes. These are very important facts, right? So composition, we are talking about chairperson of the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. All these are members. Like we were talking about the 7 ex officio members. Now 5 you have seen here, 2 others are here. NCPCR, and they were added later on, Chief Commissioner for Person with Disabilities, Divyang. Appointment of members. How are members of NHRC appointed? Chairperson and members, they are appointed by President. Keep a tab on this. They can give you that they are appointed by Prime Minister. That is wrong. They are appointed by President. And there is a committee which will give their recommendation to President, after which he will appoint these members. So the committee is Prime Minister, Speaker of Lok Sabha, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, LOP in both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, Union Home Minister. They can also say that Chief Justice is a part of this particular committee. You will say, no, that is wrong. So you have to keep a tab. These are tricky areas. These are very tricky areas of polity and governance. Because it's very, very tough to remember all these. Who are the members? So many committees are there. So many commissions are there. How will you remember it? So the more you revise, the more questions you solve in these areas, the better you will be. So why is this NHRC considered a toothless tiger? They can directly ask you in mains also. And what is the reason? Limited power of enforcement. They can only make recommendations. They are not binding in nature. Jurisdictional constraints. NHRC cannot investigate complaint against armed forces. We're talking about UPSPA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act, and that was one of the limitations, that NHRC is very helpless when it comes to seeing whether there is a misuse of UPSPA or not, right? A significant limitation given the numerous human rights violations reported from areas, dependence on government agency. They don't have their own forces, right? They are relying on government officers and agencies, which can lead to biased or incomplete investigation. Let's say there is a scenario where NHRC is investigating a case against a particular state government, and they're also involving the machinery of that particular state government only. In that scenario, there is a chance that there can be a biased or incomplete investigation. So all these things are happening. Overlapping jurisdiction. There's so many state human rights commission and their jurisdiction is overlapping, creating or making NHRC in a way helpless to a certain extent. If we talk about the 4th article of the day, it is related to environment. And there are so many keywords here which we have to pay attention to, like Bannerghatta National Park. UPSC asks questions on national park. They ask questions on biosphere reserves rather. They ask questions on wildlife sanctuaries. Then they ask questions on different kind of flora and fauna. So India's largest leopard safari opens at Bannerghatta National Park. Where is Bannerghatta National Park? Karnataka. And this is the first, this is the largest leopard safari. So now we also need to understand what is happening with leopard. What is the IUCN status of leopard? So there are so many critical areas, important areas, which we need to cover in this particular article. Like you can see here, in 2015, they have asked about a national park where the climate is varying from tropical to subtropical, temperate and Arctic. So these kind of questions they ask. National park you have to cover, especially those national parks which are in news, right? So Karnataka Environment Minister inaugurated South India's first and India's largest leopard safari. So we have leopard safari, but this is South India's first leopard safari in Bannerghatta National Park. And this is India's largest leopard safari. So there are so many keywords here in Bannerghatta Biological Park. And this is in Karnataka, right? Now, you have to also understand, like Bannerghatta National Park, where is it located? Which river is adjacent to it or near it? So many keywords we have to pay attention here. So more in news, due to rising human-animal conflicts, the park rescues leopard cubs and nurturing and relocating them to the safari. And they have included separate areas for leopard cubs, skywalks, and are planned to connect the zoo. So these are some description of the leopard safari, what will be happening here. But more important than the previous slide is this particular slide. Where is it located? Bannerghatta National Park, Karnataka. We have seen which hill range, Anikal range, right? And then what are the other important areas here? First, India's first butterfly enclosure. Everything first, your first love, your first friend, everything first becomes very important. So India's first butterfly enclosure was inaugurated in this park. First or largest leopard safari, first butterfly enclosure. You can see so many keywords here. And which river is adjacent to this Bannerghatta National Park? And this is not only adjacent, this is running through the center of the park. Suvarnamukhi stream. So what they can do, they can tell you that there is a particular national park which is through which Suvarnamukhi river is flowing, and it is located near in the hills of Anekal range. Which national park we are talking about here? So these kind of questions they can frame. So that's why these points become important. And the more question you solve, the more you understand which kind of questions UPSC can frame. Bannerghatta National Park, you have Banana County Resort, all these resorts. So again, to promote tourism, Dodamakli Nature Camp, River Turn Lodge, all these things are there. And again, why we have included this particular image? To make you feel like, okay, generally what happens when you're reading stuff, so you will be remembering less. But when you're seeing images, the things will be getting etched in your memory much faster. So that is the purpose why we have included this particular image. Now, we have done with one major part of this particular article regarding Bannerghatta National Park, which river is running through the center of the park, which hill range is surrounding it. Now the second part about the leopard status. So Indian leopard is a subspecies of the leopard and widely distributed on the Indian subcontinent. Threatened by illegal trade, like tiger, lions, all these things, they are threatened by illegal trade. And what is the conservation status? Vulnerable. They are classified as vulnerable by the IUCN Red List. Now, one more important thing in this particular slide. Schedule 1 of WPA 1972. First of all, WPA, when was it passed? 1972. Environmental Protection Act, when was it passed? 1986. To have a look at that. Then there are different schedules on which UPSC has already asked PYQ. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4, 5 and 6. So again, the homework is, once you are done with this particular lecture, this video, you have to read all these schedules from 1 to 6. India's leopard population is estimated at 13,000. Again, you don't need to remember all these data, just understand or keep in mind that the population is increasing. That means the population is stable. India's leopard population is stable, right? And what is the IUCN status? Vulnerable. Schedule 1, they are listed because sometimes they will give you the question that Indian leopard is listed in Schedule 3. That is wrong. Then you have to see what is Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, Schedule 3 and Schedule 4, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Leopard status, again, this is the factual information, but this is actually important. Sometimes they do ask in which state you have maximum number of leopards, that is in Madhya Pradesh, followed by Maharashtra. So this also is an important fact which you need to keep in mind. Moving on to the last article of the day. This is not only an article, these are two articles which we have clubbed, which were there on Indian Express page number 10 and 11. So one article is written by M. Venkaiah Naidu sir, only by Eternal Vigilance, and the second article is Never Again. And here we are marking 50th anniversary of emergency. We are not celebrating it, we are marking it, right? 50th anniversary of emergency, and that's why so many articles you can see in Hindu and Indian Express today. So what about it and how? Like, what is the need, like why we are reading it? Because there are different kind of emergency which are listed under Article 352, 356, 360. Article 355 is also talking about emergencies and exceptional scenarios. So we need to understand this, and UPSC has asked questions in pre as well as mains. Like you can see in 2018, they have asked a question on under what circumstances can the financial emergency be proclaimed by the President of India and what are the consequences, right? So you have to understand, and there are different terms like proclamation of emergency means which kind of emergency? Is it national emergency or president rule or financial emergency? So there are different terms, and these articles, they are providing us a reflective overview of the emergency period. But more than the overview, we need to understand what is emergency, in which scenarios we are talking about emergency or we are implementing emergency, and how 352, 356 and 360 are different from each other. So emergency, a state of emergency signifies a period of governance and during which President on the advice of Cabinet of Minister can override many constitutional provisions. In this scenario, our fundamental rights may be taken away from us. Not all, but most of the fundamental rights can be taken away in certain scenarios. So that's why we need to be very aware about emergency provisions. 350 to 352 to 360 and especially 352, 356, 360 and 355. These are important articles. UPSC can also ask you that these articles are there in which particular part of Indian Constitution, that is there in 18th part of Indian Constitution. So these are important. And these are very extreme scenarios when government is proclaiming national emergency especially. This is a very, and this has to be done in a very precarious scenario. Like there was a situation in 1991 when we were suffering from BOP crisis, balance of payment crisis. In that scenario, there was a very high probability of financial emergency being imposed, but that was not imposed. And sometimes UPSC has asked question whether financial emergency has been imposed in our country or not. It has not been imposed yet. But national emergency has been imposed once. Constitutional emergency has been imposed multiple times. Now, this constitutional emergency is the other name of President's Rule. And that's why we are reading this article. These are, for many of you, this may be a very new information. Like constitutional emergency, you may not have heard about it, or you may not have known that this is the other name of President Rule, right? Now, let's do a comparative analysis of national emergency, constitutional emergency, and financial emergency. Constitutional emergency is President Rule, right? It has been invoked more than 115 times. Sometimes people also say that this has been misused. This constitutional emergency or this President Rule has been misused. Sometimes governor is being seen as an agent of central government and they try to override the state government's power by imposing President Rule or constitutional emergency. So, Article 356. 352 is national emergency. War, external aggression, armed rebellion. Earlier, there was a word which was known as internal disturbance. Citing internal disturbance, Indira Gandhi imposed national emergency. But now that internal disturbance word has been replaced with armed rebellion by 44th Amendment. So, these are some important words which you need to understand, right? Then, approval within 1 month, within 2 months, within 2 months. And then there are different words which you need to again understand and do in your homework. So maybe I am giving you a lot of homework, but when we talk about majority, there is special majority. There is simple majority. There is special majority plus ratification by more than half of the states. So you need to understand what is the difference between. Then there is effective majority. So what is the difference between simple majority, absolute majority, effective majority, special majority? These are some keywords which you need to take out from this particular article. Apart from the point that national emergency is 352, constitutional emergency is the other name of President Rule, 356, financial emergency is 360, not yet invoked. UPSC has asked PYQ on this particular, whether it has been invoked or not. Financial emergency we are talking about here. So now let's solve some practice questions. We have dealt with 5 articles from Hindu and Indian Express. Now, if you want to remember them, if you want to remember their facts and figures, you have to solve some questions. So first question in front of you, and they're talking about a national park. They have given you certain properties, like it is located in the hills of unequal range. And just whenever you're reading this, have a look at it, read it in a faster manner, and try to see the keywords. First butterfly sanctuary, river Suvarnamukhi. So which particular national park they are talking about? You can pause me here. The answer is Bannerghatta National Park. If we talk about the second question, again, once the question is in front of you, you can pause the video, you can solve the video, and then you can unpause me and you can watch me. So, Constitution of India uses the expression proclamation of emergency to denote. Proclamation of emergency is a word which is used to denote national emergency only. Again, if you have solved this question, you'll be able to solve this in exam. Otherwise, you will face or you may face some issues, right? Third question. Consider the following statement related to leader of opposition in the Indian Parliament. So, LOP we have talked about. We have talked about the 10% criteria and everything, the debate, the controversy, 10 years. We did not have an LOP from 2014 to 2024. So now have a look at this question. Pause me. The leader of opposition is defined by the salary and allowances of leader of opposition in Parliament Act 1977. That is actually correct. So do option elimination. Remove C. The leader of opposition is considered a shadow prime minister with a shadow cabinet. We have taken the example of Rahul Gandhi in this scenario. Second statement is also correct. So remove B option. You are left with A and D. The leader of opposition in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha rank at number 5. They're not ranked at number 5. Go back and watch that particular portion related to leader of opposition. They're ranked at number 7. So third statement is wrong. The answer is A, 1 and 2 only. Fourth question. Consider the following statement regarding appointment of members of NHRC. Chairperson and members of NHRC are appointed by President of India. The committee responsible for recommending the appointments include the Chief Justice of India. The Home Minister heads the committee responsible for recommending the appointments, right? So we know there is no Chief Justice. When we were seeing this, I have told you explicitly when we were discussing that article that they may give you that Chief Justice is a part of the committee, but he is not. So second is wrong. So eliminate second. You are left with B and D. Home Minister does not head. Prime Minister heads the committee. So the answer is D, 1 only. Moving on to the last prelims question with reference to rooftop solar program in India. Consider the following statement. Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission targeted 40 initially targeted 40 gigawatt of solar energy by 2022, including RTS. And the second part is Rajasthan has the highest RTS potential. They have the highest potential, RTS potential. So first statement, rather, if we talk about the second statement is correct. So now you're left with either B or C, only two or both 1 and 2. And the first statement is wrong. You know why? Because they did not initially targeted 40 gigawatt. They targeted 20 gigawatt. So first statement is wrong and the answer is B, only 2. Again, a tricky question because when these facts are, they can easily be distorted and you can, if you're not paying too much attention to the facts, you can make a mistake in these kind of questions. Now moving on to the means practice question related to rooftop solar. So there is a question where you have to talk about and you have to critically analyze that India has an aim of installing 500 gigawatt of renewable energy, 280 from solar, and out of that 280, 100 from rooftop solar. So what are the progresses which we have made? What are the challenges associated with it? And what are the way forward? What steps we need to ensure the growth of rooftop solar and to make it more and more sustainable. So in the introduction portion, you can talk about India's target. Then this is NDC, nationally determined contribution, and how much 100 has to come from RTS out of 280 of solar. Then you can talk about the launch of RTS program under Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, which was launched in 2010, that is 2010. So this will be your intro. Then in the body, you will explain how much this particular Jawaharlal Nehru mission has been successful, progress of the RTS program. Initial and revised target, we have seen earlier 20 gigawatt, then it was revised, right? State-wise performance, Gujarat is performing, leading. Rajasthan has so much potential, but there are some states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand who are lagging behind. We have talked about it. Challenges, what are the challenges? Bureaucratic hurdles, lack of political will, lack of infrastructure, lack of money, lack of finances, all these things you can talk about. Steps to ensure. When you're talking about challenges and steps to ensure, you are generally talking about the solution of those challenges. And then you can conclude by the importance. How much like this decentralized model of rooftop solar can contribute to energy security, can lead to reduced GHG emissions. So it has a very bright future and we need to have a strategic implementation of the above mentioned steps so that we can achieve our RTS target by 2030. Thank you for watching Daily News Analysis. If you like the video, do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy channel. Take care, be blessed, see you soon.